For countless seasons, devotees of Heartland have grappled with a singular, persistent question, a query that has echoed in their minds since the profound loss of Borden. Is there any possibility of his return? Could the individual they believed lost to them, the man whose gentle nature and resilience touched so many, still exist somewhere in the world? Season 19 commences with an electrifying development, a moment so potent and unforeseen it promises to render viewers utterly astounded. Borden is, in fact, alive. He is not gone, and the instant of his reappearance is set to redefine everything. The early morning light ascends gracefully over the Heartland Ranch, bathing the familiar landscape in soft, golden hues. A profound quietude envelops the scene, the distinct calm that often precedes a significant upheaval. Amy Fleming, matured by time and experience, moves with a familiar decisiveness as she steps into the dawn. The burden of years navigated in his absence weighs upon her, a testament to her strength. She has, against all odds, learned to carry on without him, the man who is intrinsically her heart and soul, the one she was convinced she had irretrievably lost. As Amy proceeds towards the barn, a figure shifts indistinctly near the corral. Initially, she dismisses it as another early rising member of the family, perhaps Jack or Tim, but then the form draws nearer, materializing from the dissipating morning mist. For a suspended moment, Amy becomes motionless, her breath caught, a sudden tightness in her chest. The silhouette is achingly familiar. Her heart lurches, the broad set of the shoulders, the characteristic posture, the quiet strength inherent in his bearing. It's undeniably him. Her voice, a mere tremor, whispers the name she never imagined she would utter again. For a protracted moment, only silence answers. The man standing before her takes a tentative step, an uncertainty in his movement, almost as if he too struggles to believe the reality of the situation. "Amy," he articulates softly, the sound barely audible, yet it possesses the force to fracture the world they've both inhabited. In that singular instant, the accumulated years of anguish, the pervasive grief and the profound loneliness of their time apart surge back to Amy. The life she meticulously reconstructed without him, the cherished moments shared with their daughter, Lindy, all of it converges upon her with the force of a relentless tide. Time itself seems to halt as they remain there, separated by mere feet, both ensnared in a state of profound disbelief. Amy's legs feel unsteady. Her hands tremble as tears begin to gather, clouding her vision. It simply cannot be him. She had laid him to rest. She had mourned his passing. She had, she believed, moved forward. Or at least, she had convinced herself I buried you, she finally manages to whisper, her voice strained and cracking beneath the immense weight of her words. I stood at your graveside. I said my final goodbyes. How could you allow me to believe you were dead? Ty's expression contorts with a deep, palpable regret, his own unshed tears shimmering as he takes another hesitant step closer. He extends his hand slowly, a gentle gesture, as if attempting to bridge the chasm that separates them, striving to convey the myriad emotions and explanations that words alone cannot capture. I never wanted it to be this way, Amy, but not a single day passed that I didn't think of you, of Lindy. Every moment, I fought with everything I had to find my way back to you. Amy's grief is stark, exposed to the morning air, raw and vulnerable for the first time in what feels like an eternity. She is torn, uncertain whether to rush into his arms or retreat, to unleash a torrent of anguished cries or simply collapse under the emotional onslaught. Her heart, so long fractured, now feels a tiny, fragile piece tentatively holding on to a nascent hope, a desperate desire to believe. Ty stands there with quiet patience, allowing her the space to feel the full impact of the years he was absent. He refrains from immediate explanations, knowing intrinsically that there is no simple method to mend this, no way to instantly erase the damage inflicted by the past. He watches her, his own heart aching as he witnesses her internal struggle. I yearned to return every single day, Ty states quietly, his voice imbued with a profound sincerity, but I was made to understand that remaining distant was the only certain way to ensure your safety. And Lindy, Amy recoils slightly, her mind racing, struggling to process the impossible truth unfolding before her. She had accepted his death as final, absolute, but the reality, it seemed, was far more convoluted. Ty had survived. He had been kept alive, secreted away to shield his family from pervasive threats, linked to a dangerous world he had inadvertently become part of. The pain of this revelation is almost unbearable. To comprehend that Ty had never wished to leave, that he had fought daily to return, only to be coerced into a prolonged, agonizing silence, is a bitter reality to confront. I fought for you, Ty adds, his voice resonating with a quiet, fervent intensity. I pleaded with them, begged them to allow me to contact you, but they insisted it wasn't safe. And now, he looks down, momentarily struggling to find the appropriate words. Now, I just want to be here. I want to somehow make amends for the time I've lost, for the things I can never truly change. Amy's mind is a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts and emotions, and yet amidst this internal tempest, one undeniable truth anchors her. He is here. Ty is standing before her, alive, breathing, and it represents everything she had long since ceased to believe was possible. The moment hangs suspended between them, charged with the colossal weight of all they have endured. Slowly, cautiously, Amy steps forward, her hands still trembling as she reaches out to touch his face, almost as if she needs to physically verify the reality of this encounter. I've dreamed of this, she whispers, her voice thick with a torrent of suppressed emotion. But in every dream, you always vanished again. Ty takes her hand, placing it gently but firmly over his chest. I'm not going anywhere this time. And in that profound instant, everything the years of pervasive grief, the long desolate nights spent alone, and the profound sorrow of raising Lindy without his presence, all of it begins to recede, to slowly. Ty is back, not merely as the man she once loved so deeply, but as the man who has fought against unimaginable odds for this precious second chance. The arduous journey of healing, however, has only just come. Amy's heart continues to race, her mind grappling to fully assimilate what is transpiring. The love, the confusion, the simmering anger, the burgeoning hope, all these emotions coalesce within her in a dizzying vortex. But before she can articulate another word, the profound reality of Ty's return begins to permeate the consciousness of the wider Heartland family. The ripple effect of his presence extends to everyone, from Jack to Lou to young Lindy, and each individual must confront this astounding truth in their own distinct way. The man they all believed was gone forever is back, and no one is quite certain how to truly embrace this new, altered reality. The first member of the family to learn that Ty is alive is the stoic, venerable grandfather, who has served as a paternal figure to Ty since his earliest days at Heartland, is seated at the kitchen table, leisurely sipping his morning coffee, entirely unaware that his world is on the verge of being profoundly shaken once more. Amy enters the kitchen slowly, her expression unreadable, as if she carries a secret too immense to contain. Jack looks up at her, his experienced eyes immediately sensing that something is amiss. He's back, Amy states quietly, her voice trembling with the enormity of her words. Jack's eyes narrow slightly in disbelief. What do you mean? Who's back? Amy doesn't respond immediately. She glances down at her hands, fighting back a fresh wave of tears that threaten to overwhelm her. The weight of the truth remains so incredibly heavy. She finally meets his gaze. Ty's alive, Jack. He came back. For a long, suspended moment, Jack doesn't move. He simply stares at her, his mind attempting to make sense of her words. His thoughts race through the years of shared mourning, the acute pain of watching Amy suffer, the stark finality of the funeral service. It couldn't possibly be true. Ty was dead. Jack, like everyone else, had said his goodbyes. But when Amy repeats her words, her voice thick with undeniable emotion, Jack's stern facade soft. He is clearly struggling to believe it, yet he can see the irrefutable truth reflected in her eyes. the heartbreak intertwined with a fragile hope. "Where is he?" Jack finally asks, his voice quiet, almost tinged with uncertainty. Before Amy can formulate a response, Ty himself steps into the room. The moment he crosses the threshold, the atmosphere in the kitchen changes irrevocably. Jack stands up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the wooden floor. For a long second, the two men just stand there, observing each other, both too stunned to speak. It's as if the accumulated years of confusion, loss and unspoken grief have reached a critical boiling point. And now, in this utterly unexpected moment, everything is thrust into the open. Jack's usually tough, composed exterior falters, and a discernible shift occurs in his eyes. The gruff, no-nonsense man recedes, replaced by the caring, almost fatherly figure he never fully had the chance to be. The emotion in the room is raw, unspoken, yet it palpably fills the space between them. "You little rascal," Jack mutters, his voice thick with a complex mix of emotions. And then suddenly he pulls Ty into a firm, heartfelt hug. It's not a prolonged or overly dramatic embrace, but it is profoundly real, and it conveys everything Jack cannot articulate in words. "You broke all our hearts, son," he whispers, holding on tightly. "But damn it, it's good to have you home." The sheer relief evident in Jack's embrace speaks volumes. Ty's return isn't merely about him coming back from a presumed death. It's about reuniting a family that had been cruelly torn apart. It's about the father and son, bound by circumstance and affection, who never truly had the opportunity to build the deeper relationship they both desired. In that one simple, powerful hug, the walls between them crumble, leaving only the unspoken truth: they need each other. While Jack begins the slow process of absorbing the impossible, Lou, Amy's pragmatic sister, reacts in her own characteristic fashion. As the fiercely protective guardian of the family, Lou has consistently been the adhesive that held everything together through crisis. She was Amy's unwavering support during her darkest, most desolate moments, helping her navigate the grief and the daunting loneliness of raising Lindy without Ty. She assisted Amy in battling through the most challenging times, effectively becoming a maternal figure in her own. But now, Lou must confront the woman she loves with news that will shatter the foundations of everything she believed to be true. Amy finds Lou in the barn, standing amidst the familiar, quiet atmosphere, her hands wrapped tightly around the handle of a pitchfork. Lou's expression is a mixture of confusion and concern, accurately sensing the gravity in Amy's demeanor. Amy doesn't mince words. "He's back. Ty's back." Lou's face drains of color. The pitchfork slips from her grasp, clattering softly against the barn floor, and for a moment, she is frozen in sheer disbelief. "What do you mean, he's back?" she questions, her voice tight with escalating tension. "Amy, that's not even remotely fun." But when Ty himself steps into the barn doorway, Lou's carefully constructed world is thrown into utter chaos. She gasps, her hand flying to her mouth as tears immediately well up in her eyes. She takes a hesitant, uncertain step toward him, almost afraid to make physical contact, as if he might dematerialize the moment she gets too close. "Is this real? Are you actually real?" she asks, her voice trembling with a volatile concoction of joy, profound anger, and overwhelming heartbreak. Ty doesn't offer an immediate response. He doesn't attempt to explain himself or offer excuses. He understands intrinsically that there is no easy answer, no simple solace for the immense pain Lou has carried for all these years. He stands there quietly, allowing her to feel the full spectrum of her emotions: the anger at his prolonged disappearance, the grief from witnessing her sister's suffering, and the keen sense of betrayal that Ty never found a way to return soon. Lou steps forward decisively, tears streaming unchecked down her face, and envelops him in a tight, almost desperate hug. "You had better never ever leave again," she sobs into his chest. "Next time, I genuinely don't think I'll be able to fix everything you managed to break." It's a sister's heartbreak, raw, unfiltered, and profoundly real. Lou has dedicated so many years to protecting Amy, to holding her together, And now she confronts the man who inadvertently shattered her sister's heart. And yet, in the very same breath, there's an undercurrent of forgiveness, because deep down, Lu comprehends the profound depth of his pain too. Tai holds her tightly, not uttering a word. He is acutely aware of the damage his absence has caused, but he is back now, and he is resolute in his desire to make things right. For Amy, for Lu, for Lindy. He knows this path will not be easy, but he is willing to undertake whatever is necessary. While the rest of the family endeavors to process Tai's astonishing return, Lindy, the young girl who has grown up with only stories and photographs of her father, must now come face to face with the living reality of who Tai Borden truly is. She knows him from the cherished pictures and the tender tales her mother has shared with her over the years, but to her he has always been a somewhat distant, almost mythical figure, a name in a beloved story, not a man she could physically touch or hold. Amy gently leads Lindy into the house, her own heart pounding with a mixture of anticipation and trepidation for this momentous meeting. "Lindy, there's someone incredibly special I want you to meet," she says softly, her voice filled with a wealth of emotion. Lindy tilts her head, her expression curious, yet she remains unaware of the true gravity of the impending moment. When Tai steps forward, his eyes meeting his daughter's for the first time in years, a quiet, profound silence descends upon the room. He kneels down slowly, extending his hand gently, his voice soft and kind. "Hi, Lindy. I'm your dad." For a long contemplative moment, Lindy simply looks at him, carefully processing his words. She doesn't fully comprehend the situation yet. She doesn't grasp all its implications, but there is an undeniable, almost instinctual something within her that recognizes him. Slowly, hesitantly, she steps forward and, without a trace of a second thought, wraps her small arms around his neck. It's a hug born not from complete understanding, but from a deep, primal, instinctual need to be close to the man who has always been a part of her life, even if she never consciously knew it. Tai holds her close, his own tears now falling freely. He is finally holding his daughter again, the little girl he feared he would never get to know, never see grow. The reunion is simple, unadorned, yet it is. Amy watches from the periphery, her heart feeling as if it might burst, torn wide open with a mixture of joy and residual pain, as she witnesses the two people she loves most in the world finally truly coming together. In this quiet, exceedingly tender moment, the fragmented pieces of the family begin, ever so slowly, to heal. And while they are all acutely aware that the road ahead will undoubtedly be challenging, they also know one thing with absolute certainty: they are no longer irrevocably broken. Tai Borden is home. As the initial overwhelming shock of Tai's return gradually begins to subside, the true daunting weight of what is happening starts to settle in. Tai might be physically back, but it is abundantly clear that things can never simply revert to the way they once were. The family's reunion is undeniably suffused with profound emotion, but beneath the surface of joyful tears and heartfelt embraces lies a deep and exceedingly complicated struggle. The intervening years apart have exacted their toll, and while the enduring love between Amy and Tai is undeniable, the emotional and experiential gaps that now exist between them are far wider than either of them could have ever anticipated. For Amy, the hurt penetrates deeper than anyone can truly comprehend. She dedicated years to grieving Tai, to painstakingly trying to heal from the searing pain of his perceived loss. She raised Lindy single-handedly, meticulously constructed a life without him, and somehow found a way to survive the overwhelming, crushing sorrow. But now, standing face to face with the man she once loved with every fiber of her being, it is incredibly difficult for her to reconcile the painful past with the astonishing present. The years of unrelenting heartbreak, the countless unanswered questions, the long, desolate nights spent wondering what truly happened to him, all of it comes rushing back in a formidable tidal wave of emotion. The first night Tai is back, they find themselves sitting together on the familiar porch, The vast sky above is adorned with a multitude of stars, the night air calm and profoundly still. Amy, utterly exhausted from the emotional whirlwind of the day, attempts to articulate her feelings, but the words seem to get lost somewhere between the turmoil in her heart and her ability to express them. Tai too is visibly struggling. Though he is physically present, emotionally, he has been ensnared in a desolate world of pain and bare survival for so long that he is no longer certain how to reconnect with the life he once cherished. He has missed so much. He has witnessed so little of Lindy's childhood, and the immense thought of everything he has irrevocably lost weighs heavily upon his Amy, Tai says quietly, his voice breaking the comfortable silence. I never for a single moment stopped thinking about you, about Lindy. I was always with you in my heart, even when circumstances made it impossible for me to be with you in person. Amy's eyes brim with unshed tears. A part of her desperately wants to reach out to him, to envelop herself in the comforting warmth of his words and presence, but she can't quite bring herself to do it. Her heart remains too fragile, still bearing the deep fissures from all the years of pain. And now there is this unfamiliar palpable distance between them, a vast emotional gulf that neither of them yet knows how to bridge. I know, she whispers, her voice barely audible, but you weren't here. I needed you, Tai. You weren't there for Lindy. For me. She pauses, her voice faltering as the immense weight of the lost years presses down upon her. I don't know how to forgive you for that. The words hang suspended in the cool night air, and Tai feels their sting as if it were a physical blow. He knows with a certainty that chills him, that the hurt he caused, however unintentionally, cannot be simply undone, no matter how fervently he might wish it otherwise. He had been left with no choice but to disappear, to protect them from a threat he couldn't then name. And even though a part of him knows it was a necessary decision under duress, the guilt gnaws at him relentlessly, every single day. Amy, this wasn't my choice, Tai says softly, his voice laden with profound regret. I fought for years, did everything I could to come back to you, but every time I got close, some external force, some new complication pulled me further away. The people who orchestrated my disappearance, who forced me into that impossible situation, they wouldn't have stopped until you and Lindy were silenced too. Amy's heart softens fractionally at his explanation. She knows the man she loved, the core of his being, would never willingly abandon her, or their child, but understanding, she is learning, doesn't always equate to immediate healing. She had longed for him to come back, prayed for, but now that he is here, the reality is infinitely more complex and challenging than she ever could have allowed herself to imagine. I don't know how to move forward from this, Tai, she admits, the tears finally falling, tracing pathways down her cheek. I spent so incredibly long grieving for you. I rebuilt my entire life without you. And now I don't know what we are to each other anymore. Tai reaches for her hand, his own trembling slightly with the weight of his own accumulated sorrow and uncertainty. I don't expect things to be easy. I know I've missed so much, more than I can comprehend right now, but if you'll let me, if you can find it in you to give us a chance, I want to be here for you. For Lindy, I want to try again. The quiet, star-dusted night seems to stretch on for an eternity as they sit in a heavy silence, the immense weight of their shared past and their uncertain future hanging palpably between them. Amy desperately wants to believe him. She wants to believe that this second chance is real, that they can somehow start over, piece by painstaking piece, but she is terrified. The searing pain of losing him once before remains too fresh, too raw in her memory. How can she possibly risk enduring that kind of devastation again? While Amy and Tai grapple with their deeply personal, unspoken pain, Lou faces her own internal battle. The stunning revelation that Tai is alive has shaken her to her very core. Lou has always been the steadfast protector, the one who resolutely held the family together during Amy's most profound and darkest times. But what about her own heart?
What about the years she spent witnessing Amy's suffering, all the while pretending to be strong and unyielding for everyone else? When Lou first sees Ty, the ensuing flood of emotions is almost overwhelming. A part of her wants to lash out at him, to scream and demand how he could have possibly done this to her sister, to all of that. Another, perhaps deeper part of her has also been clinging to a fragile, almost subconscious hope that one day, somehow Ty would come back. She spent so many long nights looking after Amy and Lindy, doing everything within her power to keep the family afloat, even when she felt as though she were drowning in her own unexpressed sorrow. And now Ty is back, but the reality of it is too much, too sudden. It feels as though the very ground beneath her has been abruptly ripped out from under her. Lou finds herself alone in the barn one evening, gazing out at the familiar pasture, now bathed in moon. The stars above her are so remarkably clear, so brilliantly bright, and yet she feels as though she is caught in the midst of a raging storm, struggling just to breathe. She can't make any logical sense of this new reality. I don't know if I can do this, she admits, her voice shaking as she speaks the words aloud to herself. How do I even begin to forgive him? How do I let go of everything he's inadvertently put Amy and Lindy through? She hears footsteps approaching from behind and turns, somewhat surprised to see Jack standing there. He has always been the unshakable rock of the family, consistently steady and resolute, but tonight, even Jack seems a little less certain, a little more visibly shaken. His eyes are softer, more understanding than usual. It's not entirely about forgiving him, Lou, Jack says quietly, his voice imbued with his customary quiet wisdom. It's more about learning to live with what has happened, and with what's yet to come. We can't change the past, that's certain, but we can start to build a new future, together. He pauses, then adds, it's going to be hard, hell, it might even feel impossible at times, but we've always been a family, Lou, and that's the one thing, the one bond that can't truly be broken. Lou nods slowly, carefully taking in his words. His counsel doesn't magically make the hurt disappear, but she knows deep down that Jack is right. The family is undoubtedly fractured in many ways, bearing the scars of loss and confusion, but they are still a family, and that fundamental truth means they have a chance, a possibility of rebuilding. The emotional tug of war between Ty and Amy, and the concurrent struggle for the rest of the family to fully accept the reality of his return, is far from over. But in the quiet, introspective moments, there's a discernible glimmer of hope. If they can collectively face the unvarnished truth of what they have all been through, perhaps, just perhaps, they can find a way to heal together. For now, all they can realistically do is take it one day at a time, patiently and diligently rebuilding the bonds that were so painfully broken, and slowly learning to trust each other once more. Because in the end, it's not solely about what has been lost, but more importantly, about what they still possess, each other. The palpable tension continues to pulse through the Heartland ranch, a home now brimming with unspoken words, lingering questions, and the fractured, multifaceted pieces of a shared past. The return of Ty Borden has not just shaken Amy to her very foundations, but has sent far-reaching ripples of emotion and uncertainty through the entire family unit. Yet one thing remains unmistakably clear: the very heartbeat of Heartland, its enduring foundation, is its family. The dynamics at play are inherently complex, intricately layered with profound love, a sense of betrayal, deep loss, and a resilient, burgeoning hope. And it is within these unbreakable, albeit strained bonds of family, that Ty's return slowly begins to take a more defined shape, gradually revealing a deeper, more nuanced story than just his improbable survival. Ty's reappearance has undeniably sparked a wide spectrum of intense emotions in everyone around him, and yet the more profound underlying issue persists. Can they, as individuals and as a collective, truly forgive the years of pain and perceived absence he caused? even if those circumstances were largely beyond his control. For Amy, the pain of Ty's initial disappearance was all-consuming, a profound void, but as time has steadily passed, the space he left behind in her heart has subtly transformed. What was once a gaping raw wound has slowly begun to evolve into something softer, more akin to a scar that carries with it a complex and poignant story. It isn't solely about the loss anymore. Now there is discernible room for healing, for cautious optimism, and she knows with a quiet certainty that no matter how incredibly difficult the path ahead may be, she needs to try for herself, for Lindy, and perhaps for the memory of what she and Ty once shared. However, for Amy, healing does not equate to rushing precipitously back into a romantic relationship with Ty as if the intervening years never occurred. As the true weight of everything he has missed, every milestone and every quiet moment, begins to fully settle between them, she realizes with stark clarity that there is a significant amount of emotional work ahead. This work isn't just about comprehending the intricate and dangerous reasons behind his prolonged disappearance. It's also crucially about rediscovering who they are to each other now after so much has changed. It is in these quiet, intensely intimate moments between Ty and Amy that the profound depth of their unresolved grief and trauma inevitably surfaces. Ty tentatively tries to hold her hand, offering what little comfort and reassurance he can muster, but Amy often pulls away, her face a mask of torn, conflicting emotions. There is an undeniable love still visible in her eyes, but it is now intertwined with a pervasive sadness, a sorrow that extends far beyond the simple miraculous act of his return. She genuinely doesn't know if she's ready to forgive him. Not fully, not yet. She doesn't know if she can truly let him back into the deepest recesses of her life in the way he so clearly yearns to be. It feels too soon, too overwhelming, and yet concurrently, she cannot realistically envision a future that doesn't in some way include him. The sheer complexity of these emotions, the hesitant hope, the residual anger, the persistent confusion, brings an undeniable and palpable weight to their every interaction. But what remains so incredibly powerful in these tentative, emotionally charged moments is that despite everything,